So
Uh,
should I get started? Are we still letting people in?
Allons-y, let's go.
Allons-y. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to not share my screen yet. I'm going to smile at my people because I feel better when I see you. And this is a huge jump for me because those of you who have been with me all along till now know that I am terrified of technology. And if there's any reason not to do this, it's because I do not like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm nervous about technology. So up to this point, I've always said next, next. So now the team has said to me, it's time you try it yourself. So I was up. Allison, who's on here now, was working with me till 8. I practiced till about 11 o'clock at night. And by the end, it wasn't working, so I can't do it. But I'm going to try with technology. So I'm going to do my own next, which is scary, but I'm putting it to you to challenge yourself as well. And it's definitely a cognitive challenge, almost to the point, definitely to the point of stress. And if I do happen to jump off or I don't mean to, what came to my mind this morning was for those of us who know Fred Flintstone, remember how he tried to put the cat out, and then the cat puts him out, and then he's knocking on the door, Wilma. So if I get kicked out of Zoom, which I did on practice, I will just come around again, and Quinn will let me in. So there's a little what's going on in my heart and mind today, but I will try. So Quinn says, and Allison say, you just press share and you go ahead. So here we are on share. Now, here we go. Okay. I win. All right. So this is today's presentation. It is, and first of all, thank you genuinely for showing up. And it is nice for me to see all your smiling faces. There's some new people here, but I do feel like I'm among friends. And so thank you for supporting us as we grow and we are growing. And as we try to reach more people in this online brain health community. So this is the first time that I'm doing something a little bit different. Well, besides me trying to not have to say next constantly. That's a personal thing. But from your perspective, this is something that you haven't heard from me yet. The first series of classes has been about level 1, basic brain health. Now, this is the first that we are trying about something in level 2. It's a standalone session, and we could go much more into depth on memory, but this is just an introductory course to see if there's an interest out there. So it's one session, standalone, level 2, learning and memory. So Zoom etiquette, I think most of this group knows this already. Keep your microphone off unless we ask you to turn it on. There's a react button, there's chat. Turn your camera off if you're doing something distracting, but I really love to see the faces. It helps me calm down a bit. Quinn will probably tell me, Holly, you don't need to say that kind of thing. We're working on me. Okay, with a strong commitment to brain health. Now I have to move all my people over so I can see it. But I guess you can see it. So we are trying this online venture to reach more people in the certainly outside of Regina and into Canada and all over. So that's what we're doing here. For those of you who know what a Val Day is, I'm definitely taking a Val Day after this. Okay, so I want Holly to relax and engage and enjoy, and obviously I want you to as well. If you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the chat or email us at the email that you will get after this session. Or if you want to email me personally, that is my personal email there. And feedback is welcome. If I should speak louder or clearer, whatever you need, let me know. It's probably not you, it's me if I'm not explaining something properly. And this is copyrighted, so please respect that. So welcome back. I think all of you have taken level 1. Some of you might be brand new, and don't worry, you're not going to miss, you don't need level 1 to go on to this. You'll be fine. And today's new focus is discoveries and actionable strategies for brain health. There will be a break about midway because Holly will need it. And it's also good for all of us to stand up and move around a bit. And we're going to do some breakout rooms and some different things there. And everything I teach is based on the science of brain health. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a brain researcher at the University of Regina, and I base everything that I tell you on the latest, most up-to-date research that I learn in my lab. And copyrighted, we know it. This is information, educational only. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist or a therapist in any way. It is just knowledge from me as a brain researcher, taking it out to you. So the science. So today's topic is brain-based learning and teaching. And it is how I teach and how you can apply this information in your own life as a lifelong learner. So now I want you I didn't say next, Holly. I want you to go back to what we learned before. If you can, this is a bit of a review then. If you can go back to what we did in the very first class, what we talked about, how to make new neurons. Can anyone unmute yourself and tell me or put it in the chat about the 2 steps about making new neurons, neurogenesis? Can anyone remember those 2 steps? Anyone at all? Unmute yourself or put it in chat.
Exercise,
Excellent. And what's the second part?
challenging brain tasks.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you. So yes, this is how you make new neurons. The very basics is to exercise and then cognitively challenge yourself. Cognitively challenging yourself involves learning. It's a very good way to cognitively challenge yourself. So this whole class today is how to learn based on how the brain learns. So it ties right into that. So this is an important part of neurogenesis and even making the connections in your brain neural network, because if you are making more connections by learning material, then you are building brain reserve for your future. And the more that you have, the more connections you have, the better off future learning will be. The more you know, the more you have to add on to what you know, so that it all becomes like a one big snowball. And we've had enough snowballs this year, haven't we? We need some spring, which apparently is going to happen in a couple of days around Saskatchewan. Important new or new to you information. So if you haven't taken my first series of classes, this will be new to you. And I think there are some people on here from there. But if you have taken the class, you already know this. Neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. Neurogenesis meaning make new brain cells. You can make new brain cells your whole entire life. The first step is to physically exercise, move around a bit. And the second one is to cognitively challenge yourself. So learning is part of that. You make new connections every time you learn. And let's talk about neuroplasticity a bit. Neuroplasticity, can anyone unmute yourself or put it in the chat? What does neuroplasticity mean? And you would have had to take level 1 for this. Anyone at all?
It's the creation of the pathways between the neurons.
Excellent. That sounds like John. Thank you, John. It is the connections that you're making in the pathways. It's rewiring the brain. So your brain can constantly rewire itself according to new knowledge you're taking in. So we know very recently with technologies, researchers have discovered that neurons are being created even in adults. And this is very exciting news. So when you can make new neurons, as long as you keep cognitively challenging yourself. And as you keep learning new things, you're making those connections more robust. You're building brain reserve. And so you are making a better, healthier brain. That is why this is important for you. You can take this information that you're learning today and apply it to yourself and learn new things and make a better, healthier brain. And to me, that is so exciting. And that is why I want to get this knowledge out. So the science of today, brain-based learning and teaching, and there are advantages to us as adults. People think that kids can learn faster than adults, and in some cases they can. But there are some honest to goodness, genuine advantages to you as an adult learner over children and teenagers. And here they are. You're more likely to learn about what you're interested in. So you're here because you want to be here. You want to learn about brain health, or you want to watch Holly grow as a person. Some of you are out there for that reason. I know that because you mentor me. So you want to see how I'm doing. But some of you do, you're here because you want to be here, compared to a kid in grade 9 who is put in calculus and they don't want to be there. They want to be a mechanic and they end up being a mechanic. You might say, well, calculus would have been helpful, but you basically, before I get too off track about this kid in grade 9 who I'm imagining perfectly well, it's my brother. Anyway, to us, you are more likely to learn about what you are interested in. You are more likely to be in a learning situation you want to be in. You are here because you want to be. You're not forced to be. Your boss is not saying you have to do this. You have more knowledge base than ever before. You can only learn according to what you already know. So the more that you know, the more that you can learn. And it's kind of like hangers in a closet. If you only have 3 hangers, you can't hang up a lot of clothes. But if you have 12 hangers, you can hang up more clothes. So the number of connections in your brain is like the number of hangers. The more hangers you have, the more you can hook things onto, hang things up on. So you have more knowledge base than ever before. You have more life experience to draw from. If I start talking about my brother who is a mechanic and he didn't want to be in school, you might have more knowledge about that than if I was talking to a group of grade 7s. Or earlier today, Quinn said, what the heck is romper room? We know what romper room is, right? Something else came up oh yeah, the Flintstones. Yeah. If I were talking to a group of kindergarten kids about, remember the Flintstones and Fred used to take out the cat, and then the cat took out Fred, and then he was knocking on the door. Well, you'd have to have that knowledge base to know what I was talking about. So you have more knowledge base than ever before. You have more life experience to draw from. And you have a bigger vocabulary than you ever had before. So there are some advantages to being, I don't say an older adult, I say a developing adult, and it just changes something in my brain anyway. So developing adults, they don't lose their vocabulary unless you have dementia or Broca's aphasia, things like that. But most adults they do not lose their vocabulary. So you have a bigger vocabulary than ever before. That is a big advantage over a younger person. I was going to say next slide, but I can do it myself. I'm getting so grown up. Okay, so the learning brain, applying what we know about the brain to teaching and to learning. So when I was a student, at first I didn't do well when I went to university, and I had to learn how to learn. It was a big jump for me from high school to university. And I failed. I failed a couple of classes, and I went back to my high school and said, we were taught the periodic table in high school, and I got a really good mark in chemistry. What the heck was that about? And I learned that I wasn't given, because of my school, I wasn't given the same type of education that other university students were given. So I had to learn how to learn. So I went to the library and I started looking up how the library nowadays, the kids would go to Google, wouldn't they? But anyway, I went to the library. And I started learning how to learn, and I was fascinated. And I started applying this knowledge to my own self about how to learn, when to take breaks, how to get the information in. And I ended up graduating with high honors, great marks, great distinction, same person, just learning how to learn. And it bewilders me why we don't teach kids this way in school. But anyway, this is how I teach, and this is how I learned, and this is how I teach my university classes, and this is how I teach you. So today we will talk about how this applies to you as adult learners. So yes, when I am in front of the university students, this is how I teach. And it's because it's how the brain takes in information. So we're going to talk 4 strategies today The first part is how to get information in the first place. The second part is how to make memories of the learned information. And the third part is study sessions. And the fourth is review sessions. So we're going to take this talk today in 4 parts. If you think about it, I'm going to go back a bit. If you think about it, learning and memory are physical things, are physical processes that happen in the brain. So if you've never thought about that before, it's true. We learn, and when we learn, it goes into our brain in a physical change in our brain. And when we're trying to remember, we have to get that information out. So the 4 parts today are how to get it in the first place, how to make memories of that learned information, how to study properly. And we don't have to be going to school and learning linguistics in order to benefit from study sessions. And you'll see when we get to that. And review sessions, incredibly important. Today, I did a review with you with whether you realized it or not. When I asked you, do anyone remember what neurogenesis is? Anyone remember what neuroplasticity is? That's taking you back months ago now, years ago in some cases. I'm a trickster. Okay, so the first topic, how to get the information in your brain. So first, follow your interests. And I would tell that to my university students. If you are here because your parents wanted you to be a doctor or an engineer or a veterinarian, but you don't really want to be, then you're going to have a harder time. If you just follow what you're interested in, you will be better off. Now, to us, we're not my university students anymore, but this applies to us. If you think, oh, Holly said I should learn something, I'm going to learn, but you don't want to learn what you're going to learn, you do better following your interests. Your brain even benefits more if you follow your interests. So there was a study, again, everything I'm teaching you is based on the studies, and truly, this is what I do day and night, spare time. I love this stuff. So even my watching a movie, I might just be watching a documentary. So if you follow this is how I know this. So if you follow your interests, the brain learns better. And if someone tells a group of people that you need to learn something new in order to benefit your brain, and there's a relationship between how much you enjoyed what you learned and how much you actually retain and how much your brain benefits. So if you really don't want to learn the German language, but you think you should, you would be better off learning about the stars if you're more interested in the stars. So follow your interests, you will do better. That kind of just seems like we should know. It just seems like common knowledge, but it actually shows up in the science as well. Nutrition. Since the brain is where learning occurs, we need to have good nutrition to support a healthy brain. That's really, really important. You are brain athletes, and I want you to think of yourself as that. You are developing brain athletic people. So you are a brain athlete. You need to have proper nutrition for your brain. And for those of us who did take level 1, we took the mind diet, and you know what to do there. But even if you didn't take level 1 and you're here for the first time, basic nutrition is good for the brain as much as for the body. So in some ways, when we say you should get to the gym, well, just take your brain to the gym and your body will follow. So feed your brain. It's closer to your mouth. Feed your brain. Think of doing this, feeding your brain, but put it here. And then your brain is better off. And something that I would like to just point out as well is you have to stay hydrated. You have to keep drinking your water. Here's mine. I'm practicing what I preach. A dehydrated brain is a sluggish brain. So you need to just stay hydrated. It's easy to carry around a bottle of water all day. Nowadays, I'm wondering, should it be a plastic bottle because of what we learned a couple of weeks ago? But anyway, in any case, drink your water all day. If not, your brain will start to get sluggish. Stress level. Now, I'm going to try to get really fancy. Oh, I don't think I can. I was going to try to draw something on here, but I can't. I don't think I can do that because everyone's in the way. Okay, no, I will. Okay, here we go. Now you guys are going to be so impressed with me, I think. Draw on. No, my people are in the way. Quinn, can you guide me through that? Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're good. My people are in the way. What are we going to do with these people? Okay, here we go. Okay, so here is stress level. You need to find your optimal level. So I'm going to draw a little graph. Now, if you guys know how scared I am of technology, you will just be screaming in your mind for me because you know that I've accomplished great things by drawing this graph. Practiced for 3 hours last night. That's the best I can do. Okay, so if this is a graph and this is low stress level and this is high stress level, there is an optimal level for you in order to learn well. What I mean by that is if you were to learn something and you were never, if you didn't care about it, it wouldn't stick as better. It wouldn't stick as well as if you are going to be tested on it or if you're interested in it. If I had a group of university students, and I teach linguistics, and if the students were never tested on it, and I'm going to show them a table on how sounds are made in the mouth, and they know it's just, yeah, Holly's saying this, that's great, but they weren't tested on it, they won't learn it as well as if they know there's going to be a test on it. So when we say stress level, you can look at it as stress, or you can look at it as level of engagement with it, whichever way you want to look at it. Female and male brains differ in general about what the ideal amount is. So in general, women, now I'm even going to try to get fancier, and I'm going to try to draw this symbol for women. Did my best. Okay, and here's a male. I'm going to try to draw this. There we go. Okay, so in general, females learn better under less stress than men. And most of my people in university and most of the people here are women. So if women in general get too stressed, they don't learn well. Stress will change their brain. Remember, it's going on in the brain. If there's too much stress hormones in the brain, a woman will not learn as well. A man in general needs more stress. Remember, we all need a minimum amount of stress, a certain optimal amount of stress in order to learn. And in general, women need less than men. But even beyond that, this is for you, for your own information. You need to learn about yourself as a developing adult for the rest of your life. What is your optimal level of stress or engagement or whatever it is? So there's a difference. Now, I'm going to ask you, this is a brainstorming time. I'm going to ask you, why do you think in general women do not function as well under incredible stress? And there is one theory, but I'm going to get you to think about it. So unmute yourself now and give some brainstorming ideas or put it in the chat why women learn better under less stress than men. Just a brainstorming, make you think question.
Women function more in social groups, and men generally go on the traditional long hunts, and they're under pressure to bring home food.
Yep, that's one good theory. Excellent. Thank you, Thomas. Anyone else have an idea?
In the chat here from Colleen, hormones are different. Men are the hunters.
Excellent. Yep, good. Excellent. Same kind of idea. Thank you.
My guess is more alert for children, something like that. I think like watching kids or kind of like caring for others. This is a lot of sort of traditional roles.
Yeah, it is a lot of traditional roles, but we are mammals. We are mammals, and yes, that's kind of the same, along the same thing. The theory is, but again, it hasn't been tested. A theory is something that's suggestion. Unless you test it, you don't know for sure. But one of the theories is it is incredibly painful to have a child, and it is like to actually give birth, and it's incredibly stressful. And the theory is, whether we like it or not, it's just a theory, that if women remembered how incredibly stressful and painful having that child was, we would never have more than one. So that's one of the theories, but all the theories are legitimate, and I'm sure there's something to it. So yes, thank you for, and again, the purpose of brainstorming is not even to come up with the right answer. The purpose of brainstorming is to cognitively challenge yourself. And so you've done that even by trying to think of an answer, even if you didn't say anything. So thank you. Oh, now I gotta touch this and then, yeah, yay. Okay, I'll try to be more professional. Then go, I didn't have to say next. Okay, anyway, the science. We're still in how to get the information in your brain in the first place. And this is the biggest part, because if we don't get that information in the first place, we're never going to be able to get it out, which is what the memory part is. So again, this is a huge, huge part of this whole talk. So what kind of learner are you? There are 3 kinds of learners, kind of 4 kind of learners. And you need to figure out for yourself what kind of learner you are. The 3 or 4 kinds are visual. So do you like to learn by seeing things? Do you like to see PowerPoints? Do you like to learn by watching documentaries? So the information comes in through your eyes. Your next one is auditory. Do you like to learn by listening? The university setting, where I did not do well until I learned how to learn, when you're sitting in a big theater with 200 people and the professor is going wah 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 at the beginning, or Charlie Brown wah 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 at the lecture theater. Do you take information by hearing? That is not me. That's partly why I didn't do well. But some people like to listen. If you like to listen to information, like on your podcast or whatever, when you're driving, if you like to take in information that way, then you're an auditory learner. If you like to take in information kinesthetically, by touching things, by doing things, people who like to work with their hands would be like the mechanics. They learn better actually doing things rather than just watching it. I was in the Navy at one point, and I had a heck of a time learning how to tie knots when they just did a little booklet on here's how to tie a knot. Like, we had to tie knots for the ships. We had to tie pretty good knots. But if you gave me a manual about how to tie knots, and some people could just see that and go, I didn't do well there either. So I'm a kinesthetic learner. I do better touching things. Give me a rope, show me, let me see it, let me try it, I can learn. So so kinesthetic, doesn't matter what Holly is, but kinesthetic learners like to do things with their hands, and they learn way better that way. Some things everyone would do better. Say you're learning how to bake bread. You're better off learning how it should feel rather than reading just the recipe. So something, well, I guess maybe you're not, maybe just Holly is. And then there's a combination of the above. Everyone is probably somewhat of a combination, but they might be more dominant in one thing. And again, I think we should be teaching kids this at a young age, because if you know, like for me, once I learned I'm a visual learner, I'm not an auditory learner, I'm a kinesthetic learner as well, then I could take what the professor said at the class and I could apply it to myself. I could make pictures, I could draw, I could things like that. And then that's how I learned better. But we all have one dominant or a combination of the functions. So now what I want to do is I want to put us in breakout rooms just for like 4 minutes, when you have to honor the time, because I do have by minute where we should be. And so Quinn is going to put you in a breakout room. Within this breakout room, I want you to say and think about or tell other people, what kind of learner are you? So give everyone a chance to talk. There's only going to be 3 people in a breakout room. So are you visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or combination of the above? And you'll all be back in 4 minutes, Quinn. 4 minutes. Now Quinn's stressing out.
Hey, I'm gonna open all rooms and folks should be going. There we go.
Okay,
35.
so in your breakout room, you had a chance to think about what kind of learner you were and to share that information with people. And we're going to take a break. We have 2 more slides, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. So remember that. I'm sure you won't forget that. But we're going to talk about what kind of learner you are if you care to share that. Okay, so still under the big category of how to get the information in. Gotta move you people because you're in the way of you don't even know what I'm talking about, but I do. Okay, now I can see. Couldn't see my own slide. So what are the learning types of the other people in your life? Keep in mind that others in your life might be very different than you in how they take in information. We are often in a teaching role throughout our lives. So I just wanted to add this slide in. One thing to learn what you are, but I want you to just take a moment to think about what are the other people in your life? What kind of learners are they? And that's important because you might realize, okay, I'm a visual learner, but other people might be auditory. And if you are working with other people, other adults or children or grandchildren, or in a room in a Regina Women Network community, and you're teaching them or even talking to them, you have to realize that they might be different than you. And especially if you're teaching someone something, you need to realize that just because you are visual, they might be something else altogether. So just a little food for thought there. Oh, now I have to touch something. I'm learning. Okay. So then we want to talk about daily circadian rhythms. Again, everyone is different. I want you to take this information and apply it to yourself. Think about in your own day-to-day, circadian means 24-hour schedule. Think about in your day-to-day life, when are you most alert? And when is a good time for you to learn challenging information? Some people are best in the morning and go through a slump in the afternoon and then are good again in the evening. Other people just keep going up. Morning is not good for them. So afternoons may be better, early evenings, and then don't try to get any information in the after late evening. So again, just be aware of what your rhythm is and start applying this to yourself. Kids in school don't have this opportunity, but you do as an adult. You can start to apply this. Is it better for you to learn information in the morning or at nighttime or whatever? So pack it in with emotions. If something is emotional to you, you will remember. If in the classroom situation, what I tell my university students is, if something happened in this class that was full of emotion, like someone started having a seizure in class or something, you would remember that emotional part because emotion is really connected to memory. And so anything super emotional, you're going to remember. So we don't want anything bad emotions. Of course, we probably all remember things like where we were when the Twin Towers were hit, or our earliest memories might very well be emotional memories. But we can apply this to ourselves in all our life. We don't have to go through big emotions with it. For example, in my university classes, if I were to give a final exam question about and my students are like 20, right, 25. If I were to say, if an older person had a stroke, and it's Broca's aphasia, what might you expect to see and what could you do to help? Okay, if it's just an older person. But if I say, it's your grandpa, it's your grandma, they had a stroke, it's Broca's aphasia, what do you think you're going to see? And what are you going to do to help? That makes it way more significant, way more meaningful, and they're going to remember better. And it just that's how you can just add a little emotion. For me, if I'm trying to learn something and it's challenging, well, Quinn helped me today. He said, how many people are held back? Like I said, Quinn, I'm scared. I have to do my own nexts today. And he said, how many people are held back because they don't go on to that step, right? So Holly, you're breaking barriers for yourself. So he packed it in. Okay, right, motivating me. So pack it in with emotions. Thanks, Quinn. And get the information in different ways using different senses. So we already talked about visual, auditory, and kinesthetic and a combination. But even the more senses you use, the better off you will be. Smell, hearing, and touch. Hearing is auditory, but smell and touch, the more you can get that information in. I mean, we could probably smell a certain soap. For me, I can imagine the smell right now. Dove soap is what my aunt always used to have in her house. So if I smell Dove soap, it takes me right back to being in my aunt's house when I was a child. Sunscreen, lovely sunscreen. Put it on your hands. I do this in university classes. I get the students to close their eyes. Trust me, open your hands, and I put on a little sunscreen in the middle of January, and they rub their hands together. Oh, summer, like we can do this. We got this, guys. So smell is important, very important to memory. So even in university classes, if you write a test in the same classroom that you learned the material, you actually do better than if they do something crazy with you, like put you in another room, like a gym, and you learned in one room. So all the senses, it's like all the, I think of a tree and tree roots. The more roots that go out, the more stable the tree will be. So one poor little carrot, bloop, one little root is it. But a tree that's been there for years with all these established roots, the trunk is better, the learning is better, it's in there better. And connect new information to previously learned information. You have to do that. You can't just learn in a vacuum, but you can do this on purpose. If you are going to learn about stars, like say stars or planets or something, if that's what you're going to learn and that's really important for you to learn, then I would suggest that you even pre-learn, like before you go to the class or before you pick up that book and you really want to learn that information, just take a piece of paper and write down what do I know about planets? What planets do I know already? What do I want to learn? So anything that you just almost like take a flashlight to that part of the brain and light those parts up, the learning is going to be better. Again, it's just like if the brain is a physical thing and it is a storage unit, if you start getting there and starting just thinking about it or being there in your consciousness and your attention, the next thing that go there is going to be much more likely to stick. And they do this in elementary schools too. If a child, I do some work and I have done work even as a researcher in schools. If there is a child or a learning program for, say, inner city kids or kids who are at a disadvantage for some reason, if they know next week they're going to learn about apples in kindergarten, they will say to the parents, the teacher's talking about apples this week before, like preview, pre-learn, talk about apples, maybe take them to the store and let them see all the green apples. Then when the teacher talks about it, it's not the first time the kid is thinking about it in a kind of a recent period of time. And that will stick that much better. So all this information we can use for ourselves as adults. I think that might be it for this section. Yes. Okay. So this is a great time for a break. This is the biggest section, and I am going to take about a 2-minute break. And I think Quinn has an activity for you. If you want to take a break, get up and walk around, but Quinn has something for you if you just want to stay here, and I'll be back in 2 minutes. Take it away, Quinn.
Got it. So yeah, typically for most sessions, what we do is do a bit of a leg stretch. Holly always says, if your bum's numb, your brain's numb. So this is a little bit of a pause. But I thought for anyone that is hanging around, we could use this section to sort of talk about what we plan on learning this year. I know that February still feels like the start of the year for some of us, and we had a session at the beginning of the year on resolutions, and so I thought that since this is a learning and memory class, I'm going to revisit some of the stuff that I had as my own resolution. Did anyone take that class that's still hanging on here that wants to maybe talk about that resolution?
I am back. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay. So are people back? Quinn, you have to tell me.
They are coming back now.
Okay. All right, everybody, welcome back. What I do is I run away and I check the time where we should be and if I need to go faster or slower, and I quickly do the math on the rest of the presentation. So that's partly what I do and why I need a break. So I'm just going to keep on going and hope people come back if they're not back already. So the biggest part of this presentation is how to get the information in the first place. So how to get the memories into your brain, how to make it stick in the first place. If you didn't get it in well in the first place, you're not going to be making a good memory. So it's hugely important. Now, the second part is how to make memories of the learned information. So the information is in there, but now we have to make that stick. We have to make good memories. So learning and memory is very tied together. If you didn't learn it well in the first place, you're never going to make a good memory of it. But assuming that now you have that information in, how are you going to make a good memory of it? So that's this part, how to make strong memories. Memories are how learning is biologically stored in the brain. Now, I'm purposely pausing there, and I want us to think about that. Memories are how learning is biologically stored in the brain. So there's a physical change that has to happen in the brain in order to learn something and in order to make a memory of it. So how to make a memory, now the information's in, how to make a memory. We're going to use the prairie path metaphor, which those of you who've taken my level 1 know what I'm talking about. Most of us are in Saskatchewan and we know what wheat fields are like. So high fields of wheat. Imagine that it's just a field all by itself. Now, within that field, now we're going to let cows go through that field, and they're going to make a trail through the field right in the middle of the field. Now, if only one cow goes through that field only once, 3 weeks or 2 months from now, you're never going to see where that cow was. There's not going to be a path. Now imagine that's going to be the way the whole herd of cattle go back and forth from the barn to the pasture, to the pasture to the barn, morning and night, hundreds of cattle every day. You can imagine that path will be more permanently there. In the same way, think of your brain as a field and nothing's in there yet. You haven't learned anything. It's a blank field. And if you just put one cow through there once, you're not going to remember the information. So you have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth at certain times to make that pathway stick. That's my prairie path metaphor for us Saskatchewan people. So then we're going to talk about by going back and forth, what does that mean with learning? It means that you have to get the information in the first place, and you have to go over it or review it at certain times, which we're going to get into now. So for a study session, whether you are learning that information for the first time or you're just reviewing it, we're going to call those study sessions. So learning it or reviewing it is a study session. Now, this is some information about your study sessions. We're going to go back a bit. I have something here to show you. I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to move you guys, and I'm going to share, stop share. Okay, so now I want to be pinned. Can you pin me? Or do I pin myself? Or how does that work? Or do you see everybody, or do you just see me?
We see everybody.
Okay, so can you make it
I
just see me?
I can spotlight.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is what I brought here. These are my hearts. I just had them in my planters outside for Valentine's Day. So that's what this is. And then this is just my dog's leash. I have 2 dogs. I have a beagle and a cavalier. So in person, this is what I do. And so I just thought I'm going to do it here. When you learn something, these are your study sessions. This is time. This is the beginning of a study session, and this is the end of a study session. Whether it's, say, 1 hour or before a final exam or for the students, or if you're learning something as an adult, 2 hours, 3 hours, that doesn't matter. What matters is what you're going to tend to remember. You tend to remember the beginning of a study session and the end of a study session. And the parts in the middle, this is the up part is what you remember, and the down part is what you forget. So if you have a study session but never take a break, the part you took in the middle is not going to be remembered as well. So we want to break up study sessions into shorter amounts of time. So within, say you're going to study for 2 hours, we're going to break that up into like every regular breaks, because this is remembering, this is forgetting. At the end of the session, they will ask the researchers will say, what do you remember? People will remember the beginning, people will remember the end. They don't generally remember this unless it's something really unique or novel or unusual, which this might be for you. So what we want you to do when you're studying anything is break it up. Excuse me. So by breaking up the study sessions, you are having more beginnings. This is not working as well as it did last night at 11 o'clock. You are not having such a deep curve of forgetting. You're having more beginnings and more endings, and the forgetting part isn't as much. So that is why we want you to break up your study sessions. That's why I even make you take breaks during the class, because you tend to remember the beginning and the ends more. I'm going to share my screen again. Share. Okay. All right. So we want you to take breaks. And how often should those breaks be? Part of it is just the difficultness of the material and how often you feel like you need a break. In the morning, for me, in the morning when I'm mentally good, I could do deep focus work, learn things, all that for a longer time than at times when I'm just tired and I just need more frequent breaks. So for breaks, I don't mean get down a Netflix, start watching a whole movie, or going down some kind of a TikTok, getting all caught up in that for a long time. Just short breaks, 2 to 3 minutes. And in the schools, as I mentioned, I do work in some schools. I have in the past. Now I'm not, I'm a bit too busy, but I have in the past gone into schools and worked with brain-based learning as a researcher. And they say that the attention span is about the age of a child, only maybe 1 or 2 minutes more. So a 6-year-old needs a break every 6 minutes. Now, a whole another topic might be, I think our attention span is a little less than it used to be. But in general, before when I was in the school, so a 13-year-old would need a break every 13, 14, 15 minutes in general. Everyone is unique. Every one of you are unique. Take this information and apply it to yourself. Or if you're thinking about children in your life, some of us are volunteering in schools, and think about those kids and how often they do better if you give them little breaks.
Holly, there's have you heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Yeah.
So for the audience, there's a work approach that's kind of common. All the podcasters talk about it. The Pomodoro technique. You actually take an egg timer, and it says work for 25 minutes, no distractions on a single task. Once the egg timer goes off, take a 5-minute break, and you rinse and repeat that cycle 3 times. So 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. And then after 3 times, you take a 30-minute break and start again. And that definitely doesn't work for me. If I'm focused on a task, I can't get up from the chair for risk of not getting back to the task. But like you said, everyone's different, I think.
Right. And also there's one thing about if you are doing some deep work and you're producing things versus, remember, this is more learning and studying, right? So if you were taking information in, if you were studying for your CPA exam, it might be a little bit different than you're trying to answer all your emails. So when you're trying to learn and build memories, but yeah, both ideas are right. Sometimes you need breaks, and even our bodies, go back to the class on exercise. We shouldn't be sitting too much, right? So get up, move around, and even in your study session, if you have an option to stand up, that's probably a good idea too. Okay, now the last part is review sessions, and we're getting to the end of the presentation because this is also quite a big section as well. So review sessions are, let's read it and then we'll talk about it. Review, 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 also known as by its friends. Review, rethink, re-listen, re-talk about it with your friends, families, colleagues. Re-sing about it in your head or out loud. Go over it again by bringing it back in your mind in any way you would like. So reviewing can be as or more important than the initial learning. Let's talk about that. So I want you to review when you're talking about the cattle in a field. When I'm talking about the cattle in the field, if one cow goes through once and that's it, we're not going to make a path. In our brain, if you go over something once and never again, you're not going to make that memory. So we want you to go over it. And by going over it is the review. So review, see, view, see, but also rethink, re-listen, re-talk about it, whatever it is, just make yourself think about it again at certain times. And we're going to talk about the times, but go over it again. In university classes, I tell my students to think about what we learned as you walk to your next class, because again, you're just making that path a little bit better. And you don't have to just be passive about it. You shouldn't be passive about it. If you're learning something, you might want to make notes about it, make graphs about it, color it. Let's talk about the planets. What does Mars look like? Can you go home and draw it? Sing about it in the shower. I know it sounds silly, but for my students, some of them are musical. So I would say for your assignment, come back and and sing what you learned this whole semester. And they love it and they do it. I had one person loved quilting. She went, I have it here in the other room. Maybe if you want me to bring it, I'll go find it. I think I have it. Anyway, it's a quilt she made of the brain. So she put the different parts. She made a beautiful big quilt, and she did Broca's area, Wernicke's area, which are different parts of the brain. And I'm sure she will never forget that. It took her way longer than if she would have just wrote a paper, but she loved it. So the point is, the more you go over it, the more you're putting the cattle over the prairie path, and you're going to make a long-term memory. So it goes short-term memory, short-term memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. That's how it works. Reviewing can be as or more important than the initial learning. So reviewing is as important or even more important than the initial learning. Now, it might be more important because meanwhile, you learned other things that you're going to tie that into. And I think the next slide is going to get into that. Okay, so I brought a combination lock. When should you review? Combination lock 10, 24/7 and beyond. I'm going to explain that. What I did for this is I got my old gym bag and my combination lock. Here's my combination lock. So there's a combination to get into your brain, get the short-term memory into. I forgot, by the way, here's a little laugh for us. I shouldn't have had to bring my whole gym bag, but I can't remember my combination. So I didn't go over that enough in my prairie path. So I brought my whole gym bag to show you. But a combination lock, when should you go over things to make it go from short-term memory to long-term? When is it really important for those cattle to go through that field? 10, 24/7 and beyond. The 10 refers to, this is all a number of time. 10 refers to minutes. When you learn something, you should go over it 10 minutes later if you want to remember it. Now, how does that apply in our life today? University students, you can probably see it. You need to know this for the final. But in our life, we still want to do this. Let's say you learn someone's name and you don't want to forget. You learn it in class. 10 minutes later, go over it again, 10 minutes. The second time is 24. That refers to hours. 24 hours later, I want you to go over it again. So that would mean tomorrow. So tomorrow, you should go over whatever you wanted to learn today again, because imagine that field, the wind is going to come up and it's going to start to go up those little wheat strands. So 10, 24, and 7 is 7 days. So we want you to learn something today, Go over it 10 minutes later while you're driving, while you're walking, while you're doing whatever you're going to be doing. Next day, 7 days later, and beyond. I would say probably 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, and 28 times in 3 weeks. Research done with pilots in the US military. I'll tell you about that. So obviously in the university semester, you could see how valuable this would be to my students. I give the same lecture to them at the beginning of the semester. And in many ways, it's probably the most valuable thing they'll ever learn from me if they apply it. So you learn something on a Monday from Holly. I want you to go over it again in your mind as you walk to the next class or as you drive home. I want you to go over it again on Tuesday. I want you to go over it again next Monday. I want you to go over it in 2 weeks from now, every Monday. And each time you don't spend an hour and a half. Let's say you want to learn something here that you learned here. You don't go over it for an hour and a half. After class today, if you have time, I would suggest you write notes. If not tomorrow, write notes. If you can't, then when you can, make sure you write notes, audit. Then you have only the notes. Or let's say you want to learn a person's name. His name is, you moved in next door, his name is Raymond. I would maybe put it on a sticky note, keep that somewhere if it's really important to you, remember his name, and then put it even on your mirror. So you're definitely going to get that every day. Brush your teeth, and it's going to go brush your teeth, non-dominant hand, standing on one foot. You got all the bases covered right there. You took level 1, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, and then you want to go over this again 28 times in 3 weeks. This is the research done with pilots in the US military. What they did with them is they took a new pilot into a new airplane. And of course, the military has tons of money for the US, and countries and politics have a ton of money for the military. And this is where some of this research is coming from. But I also love to apply it to you, and I love to apply it to children and to education. So what they learned in the military is if they took a new pilot and put him or her into a new plane, how long would it take till that person really felt like a master in that particular airplane? And it wasn't after the first time. It wasn't after the second time or third time. They needed 3 weeks to really, really understand that airplane. And so that's where this information is coming from. We used to think that a habit is formed in 3 weeks. It's the same kind of idea. Now they're saying it's probably more like 66 days or something. So it seems to be a little bit longer, but the same idea. You go over it, it becomes second nature because of first class, level 1, neuroplasticity. You're rewiring the brain. You're going over that pathway. You're not letting it atrophy. That is how this works. And that is so exciting to us as developing adults. Okay, next slide. Okay, so is there anything else? I think we missed a slide, or I'll just tell you. Here it is. This is it. This is a slide I thought we were missing.
Holly, can
Yep.
I just stop you for 1 second? I had a question.
Yep.
So,
Who is it?
when you were talking about reviewing, it was like, okay, review it 10 minutes later,
Yeah.
then the next day, and then a week later, and do that for 3 weeks. That makes 9 times. So I didn't understand how it was 28 times in 3 weeks.
Oh, well, that's just Holly's math. I'm just kidding. Good question. I used to get that in university. I obviously didn't explain it. So I'm so glad you asked that question. Who is that? Is that Jen?
Brenda.
Brenda. Okay. All right. Okay. So I didn't explain that well. Thank you for clarifying that. Does not make that many times. So you have to get some extra times in. So you learn it now. You learn it 10 minutes from now. You learn it tomorrow. You learn it next week. You learn it there. That's only 6 times. You're right. That probably, and then you keep doing that. So as far as my university students in my class, if you keep doing that by the end of the semester, you're going to know that information. But how does that work in that short amount of time, in 3 weeks for the pilots? They would get them to add in more reviews more frequently. So that's when to review is how to get it into long-term memory. But the shortest you could do it would be 3 weeks. And you'd have to get in extra times within your own life at that time. It isn't that hard. Let's just use the person's name, Raymond. I remembered his name.
Holly, will you go to that slide for the visual learners here? Yeah.
Okay. Was this it?
go back to
Here we go. This, good. Okay. Yes. Okay. So if you had a whole semester to learn it, you would get it just by doing it frequently, as I said. But the shortest you could do it would be 3 weeks. And then, yes, you would have to go over it again. Ideal times to go over anything would be just at night before you went to bed. Or if you did put it on your mirror, you're definitely going to get 28 times. So you're getting the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. And then other times, just for any of us, would be when you're driving, go over it again in your head. You don't need to write it down. If you tell someone, that's why I also tell you, you see some tricks I'm doing with you before you knew why. But I tell you to go tell someone else. When you tell someone else, you're putting a cow through that prairie path.
put another way, Brenda, just for the way the slide's laid out, the 10-24/7 is one approach, and the 28 times in 3 weeks is another finding or another approach that Holly's bringing up. They're unrelated, right?
But actually, they're not unrelated. I obviously still didn't explain it right. The first part is a really good, strong beginning. You need to do that. I mean, ideally, that's what you should do to get into long-term memory. But beyond that, in 3 weeks, if you can get it in as well, that would be how you could do it within 3 weeks. And that would be the minimum amount of time till it went into your long-term memory. And then it's long-term memory. And really, short-term memory, long-term memory, when you know something, it is in your long-term memory. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, it's all good. I thought the 28 times was totally correlated to the first part, so I didn't get how
Yeah.
they work together. So it's all good.
Okay. Yeah, the first, I didn't explain that properly then. The first is a good, strong, a bunch of cows at once. That's the first strong, the beginning is really important. It is, even with the cows, if some went this way, some went that way, we need one strong path at the beginning. So you still need to do that. Now, here's the thing. Somehow I missed it. But anyway, how this works is you need to get some sleep between. Now, those of you who took level 1, you know that when you sleep, what happens in your brain? You take all the information of the day, and it's all fitting in now, isn't it? That's why learning is cool, because now we're doing this. What are we talking about doing? We're doing it now. So get some sleep between. Some aspects of learning occur during sleep when the brain reorganizes itself according to information taken in during the day since the last sleep. So on the class on sleep, we learned that at night is when your brain gets all the information of the day and stores it and decides what's not worth keeping and restores it and says, okay, I got so much here. This actually goes on here. This is even what we're doing now. I am tying back to the class on sleep that you took maybe years ago in some cases, or last semester, or more recently. So we are tying this information to that information. And it's when you sleep that this long-term memory pathways occur. It's like the prairie path metaphor, we're laying cement at night when everyone's off the path. So it's called learning consolidation is what they would use in the medical or the academic literature. Consolidation is just the basic word for making well, it's not that hard, consolidating your information of the day. And that is when you sleep tonight, you're going to take all this of the day, and then you might creatively make some connections that you didn't even make right now. Like last night when I went to bed, I woke up in the morning with the Fred Flintstone idea of taking the cat out, and then the cat kicks Fred out, and then he's knocking on the door. I woke up with that image this morning, thinking if I get kicked out, I'll just tell Quinn to let me back in. I'm at the door. So yeah, it's when you sleep that some of this happens. So it's important to get some sleep. So the university students who stay up all night, cram, they might be fine on their exam, but I bet you in 2 years, they're not going to remember a darn thing. Apply current research in this area, applying this information to various population groups. Yes, all kinds, university students, young people, I just put a person in a wheelchair because we have a program at the university for people who do have head injuries or spinal cord injuries, and you apply this information to them. We just did one with two people who had strokes, and they had brochophagia, meaning they couldn't come up with their words, and they put them on an exercise program separated by sleep, of course, because it was a month-long program, and how they learned. So all this information applies to various population groups. So can you teach an old dog new tricks? Little cute little dog. Yes, you can. And it is good for the dog. See how that old dog can learn how to skateboard? There's one thing that, I'll see if I'm, now that I said that, I have to follow up. There's one thing, if I have time, I will tell you, and I'm going to make myself have time, because if I was you, I would hate that the presenter said, if I had time, there's something else I would tell you, and then leave it at that. Unless I say, oh, sign up for next Wednesday. But no, I'll tell you. First of all, before I get into that, I'm going to briefly go over my current research because people asked for this. A little bit about me, very little about me, but I work at the university. I'm a brain researcher. My undergraduate research assistants are mostly pre-med and speech pathology students. And they also go on into, like, some are, I have a minor in linguistics, so more of a major in psychology and all kinds of, once you have a degree, it's beneficial in all areas. And I do the brain class, the health class that we're doing. I do pre and post assessments on that. And I can't say too much because of ethics, but we got some pretty exciting data last semester or 2 semesters ago about that people's hope generally goes up after a result of being in the brain class. And wouldn't it go up even after a result of this class? Because you know that your brain is still able to learn new things, and it can get better and better and better. So no surprise there. I have an interest in Parkinson's disease, and we're doing a NFL concussion and cannabis study. People who get concussions, does cannabis help or not? We're in the midst of that. I don't know. And honey and sleep, is that what's going on with there? Does honey actually help people sleep? And that's a study we're doing with the U of S. So I just want to say the last thing that I learned, which is, I did say, if I have time, I will tell you, but how do I say that and not be rude? So I'm going to tell you, I just learned last week that what does change in time from a young person to an older person is short-term memory starts to drop off. And that happens when you are, I think they said, in their mid-20s or definitely mid-30s, your short-term memory is, you start to lose that ability. Now, what would that be? That would be like when you go up, you're upstairs and you go downstairs to the kitchen and you can't remember, why am I here? Or someone just tells you something and you're like, what did they just tell me? That's the short-term memory. It's really higher functioning when you're younger. So what does that mean to us? That means that we just have to focus more. And again, that doesn't mean that younger people are better than older people. We all just have different strengths, right? As a society, we need each other. We all work together. Their gifts are we can use them. They have that in their toolkit and we have this in our toolkit. So that does start to lose that ability in your mid-20s or mid-30s, whatever it is, so long ago. So for us, yes, we might have to focus more when we're trying to learn something. We might have to not be distracted by another thought. And don't be too concerned if that happens to you, because that's very normal. But again, if we focus and think about it, we are fine. But just knowing that is good. Another thing that I just learned last week, and I have to test it before I can really tell you for sure, but a person in Arizona said that you really don't lose neurons as you get older. Everyone thought you did, but you don't. What you lose is the connections between the neurons, the synapse connections. And this is really valuable in this class because the more that you know, the more that you are making connections within your neurons. So that could be why your brain is better off as well. So I'm going to stop here. Let me see what my next slide would be. And I'm going to show off a little bit if I possibly can. If I can pull this off. Oh, I don't think I can. That's what I get for trying to show off. No, here we go. Okay. No, I can't. I was trying to. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Wait for this, people. This is my big finale.
Fancy.
I didn't even mean to do that yesterday. I had that coming up on every slide. Oh my gosh. So there we go. Okay, now I'm going to, that's it. I think I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, there we go, everybody. Any comments or questions or anything at all?
There's some good ones in the chat.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
How does taking notes fit into the conceptual framework of how learning occurs?
Taking notes by hand seems to be better than not taking any notes, just listening. If you, again, use your other senses, another sense of grabbing that pen, putting it on paper, that seems to work better, even more than working on a keyboard. And again, maybe that has to do with the ages of the people, but taking notes is better than just passively listening because you're actually doing something with it. You are making it, you are taking the information, listening, but when you're doing this is also affecting the brain. So you are connecting it to working with your hands and everything else. So yeah, taking notes is better than just listening.
Brenda brings up it also helps with your review. You have things to reference.
Yes. Yeah. And when you review, if you can, I would suggest write it down and see, and then go back and see what did you remember? What did you miss? But again, writing it down if you can. But if you can't, just drive and say it out loud. Listen to it while you're in your car, tell somebody else. Anything else? Any other questions from
Monique? What were the 4 steps at the very beginning of the presentation? A good reminder.
Okay, I think we're going to send that out as a PowerPoint, but I can tell you right now,
Yeah.
4 steps would be the first one, and the first one is getting the information in the first place. Second one would be how to make good memories. Third one would be review. And fourth one is, what am I missing? Anybody?
Study session.
Sessions. Excellent. Good job. Good job. Perfect. Whoever said that, you're learning. Yeah.
Jennifer, does daytime napping help with consolidation? If
Yes.
so, how long should the naps be?
Yes, daytime napping does help with consolidation. Research shows that people who nap, you do remember more because the brain's getting a chance to take that information in. They say the nap should be 20 to 30 minutes and no longer. Again, very individual. If you are the type of person who, if you have a short nap, you go into deep sleep and then wake you up in 20 minutes, you're going to feel absolutely gross and have something called sleep inertia. Not for you, but for the general population, yes, napping is great for learning. Also, if you are learning a lot of information, your brain is tired. Your brain is working hard. You know, when you're a student, your brain is tired. And so your brain needs a rest, and meditation is a great rest for the brain. Also, if you really want to remember something, key terms, or my friend, my next door neighbor who doesn't exist, whose name is Raymond. I'll be shocked if next week someone moves in named Raymond, I'll say I'm psychic. But anyway, if you go over that information right before bed, research shows that you remember that better too than if you learn it in the morning and have a whole day of information. Then if you just quickly, before you go to sleep, go over that again, it's fresh in your mind and you're more likely to remember it. Good question, Jennifer.
Holly, smart here. When I took a language class, one of the things was suggested put sticky notes on the different things that you're learning the words for, and they're all around your house, and so you're walking past them every day. So is that because you're I'm a visual learner, or is that just another way to reinforce, or both?
Both. It's many things. It is if you are a visual learner, that's great. Also, you're definitely going to get that 10, 24/7 good, strong beginning, plus 28 times in 3 weeks too. So it's going to be constantly there. I gave the same idea of putting up the sticky note on the mirror, but yeah, same idea. And not only that, with language, if it's something like telephone or banana, or I guess that's not going to last for 3 weeks, you better eat the darn thing. But you're also going to have a visual image of it, and say it's the kettle, then you're going to be picking it up. So you're going to get it in with all kinds of different senses. So yeah, that's why they do it, and that's why it works.
Okay, thanks.
I had a question about the when I brought up the Pomodoro technique, that kind of revealed that that's a work style or work approach for focus and being effective. So it's not necessarily learning, but which is what you brought up.
Yeah.
What constitutes learning? Like, let's say in your, I don't know if it's too philosophical, but if I'm sending emails, I need to know that I sent those emails. So that's technically learning. But what do you define learning as?
I would define learning as being able to get that information out when you want it. Yeah. And there's two so memory is definitely tied to learning, because I guess, yeah, have you learned it on a exam for my students at the end of the semester? Have they learned it enough to be able to do it when they want it? Or in my Raymond idea, could I say hi to Raymond, or would I be like, oh, what's your name? What's your name? By the way, talking about getting memories out, sometimes we all know this, couldn't think of the name at that moment, but later on, it's fascinating when you're doing something else and the name pops up. Oh, that was Raymond. So there's different parts of our brain working all the time. It's the more you know about the brain, or the more you even think about the brain, the more fun it is to have one. Did I answer your question? I think, yeah. How do you know if you learned it? Because if you can get it out when you want to get it out, it's you learned it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just went to Costa Rica. I've learned a little bit of Spanish, and I've learned it over multiple trips. And learning Spanish, it's very rocky at first. It's rusty, but then on day 3, it's kind of back. It's very bad. My Spanish is not great, but it's working. And by the end of the trip, I'm like, wow, I'm way more fluent than I was before. But then 6 months pass, and there's no, survival. There's no, stress related to retaining that knowledge. And so I wish I could keep it more of readily available on demand, or retain it. So interesting thought to think about how memory and learning works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
You get on Duolingo, which how that works, right? Like every day you learn a little bit more. Or one thing that I worked in the health district, they had me come in and give a talk, and they had people who were coming in and trained to wash and sterilize surgical equipment and put it in the autoclave. And their system wasn't working. And they had me come in and say, why isn't their system working? Well, I figured it out. And maybe you can too. A person would get the job. They would learn how to do the packs, and they would pass their test on how to do the packs. They'd be ready to go, but they wouldn't be hired for 4 months or 6 months. And they would come in as, first of all, if someone called in sick, and then eventually they could get on full time. But 6 months from now, they don't remember what they learned, even though they passed the test. So can anyone give an idea why that didn't work?
They
And what
didn't
they
keep
different?
it up in their memory. They didn't keep repeating or reviewing.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, yeah. Or else they learned it too much before they actually had to do the job, right?
Well,
So they could learn it then, yes, and maybe do a review before they start again. And then once they start, if they're only on the sub list, they might forget as well. But if they come in every day and this is their job now, they're going to get it in 3 weeks. And then they'll probably know it. If that's their job for 40 years, they will know how to do packs in their dreams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
There's some wonderful compliments in the chat here. I won't go through each one, but overall, since we're at 1 o'clock, I thought it'd be.
We're not at 12. We're Saskatchewan.
Sorry, at 12. Sorry, Toronto time.
Toronto person.
I thought it would be good to wrap up here.
Is there anything else you want to add, Quinn, as my helper to promote this?
Yeah, just thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. This is a very well attended session. We're looking at other individual, let's say level 2 sessions. One idea that we've been toying with, maybe if you want to put your hand up if you'd want to learn about this, is attention in the digital age. The idea of what social media, TikTok is doing to our brains effectively. And I don't know if I think that would complement learning and memory quite well. Would that be an interesting session? Put your hands up. I think that would be a good one. There's some other good ideas that we've talked about, but that seems like it's got a decent reception. And the best way to stay engaged, we're always looking to grow the community. We're going to send in a follow-up here, the link for Holly's newsletter. So if you have a friend or someone who should participate in these classes, get the newsletters, please forward that email and get them to sign up. Much appreciated. That's basically our only ask today, other than stay on the lookout for future sessions. Send us all your feedback about today's session or otherwise. We don't want Zoom to be a barrier for folks. And so we're happy to help folks out who have a decent amount of technical acumen. Yeah, thank you to you and thank you to Holly. Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. It's nice to see your smiling faces. I just have one other question too. There is an interest in person. People get together and they call themselves brain mates, or Northern Lights are doing that as well. They just meet once a month to just get together and encourage each other and just keep an interest alive in themselves about brain health. Would that be something we'd be interested in? Just like almost like a nothing formal, just show up maybe once a month on here, and I could lead it, or Quinn could lead it, or someone else could lead it, and just go like have a coffee social, but nothing formal. Put that maybe as a question too in the end after this. Is that okay, Quinn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The only other thing to bring up in the community too is that we just finished 4 weeks straight of a intro to meditation, which was quite good. I don't know if anyone who is on the call could maybe say something about that, if they have any, like what that experience was about. We're looking to run it again in April. I think I saw Dawn there. You got maybe 30 seconds to
Yeah, that was great. And I said it during the meditation session itself. Jean and I had taken meditation sessions before, and that one in particular added something to our meditation experience in terms of the visualization and some other things that Elena talked about. It was a good session. If it was held again, we would take it again.
Thanks a lot, Dawn. Yeah, and so that sort of reinforces the idea that we want to share knowledge from a position of Holly's credibility as a brain health researcher, and then do it in a really welcoming way where it's approachable for everyone to come together and kind of introduce and have practical ways to leverage that knowledge. And the meditation class is one example of that. So much appreciated, everyone. And yeah, I'll say I think we'll wrap up from there.
All right. And thanks for Allison. Allison's on today. For those of you who've taken classes with me, Allison's always by my side, and Allison's on here today. So thanks, Allison, for seeing what this is like. Okay,
So
well, let's finish off. Unmute. We'll finish off with you make your brain, and then your brain makes you. It just makes me feel happy. And I think it pulls us together as a team. So last thing we're going to do, I'm going to say you make your brain, and you say you, and your brain makes you. Ready? You make your brain, and then?
And your brain makes you.
Makes you.
Thanks, guys. Hey, see you next time.